Day one to everybody. I decided to be outside, so the scenery's different. I think there's too much sun in that direction. I'm gonna have to turn around. Day one, everybody. My name is Derek Ofadorongo. If you're new, I discuss Igbo spirituality. In this particular situation, ancestral ethics, right? Because we're going to talk about generational crimes, generational sins, generational offenses, and do they carry over to new generations of people. So, as always, I set a goal, and as far as how many people I want in here before I start speaking, and then I start speaking once we get that number. So, the goal for today is 15. Once we get 15 people in here, we're good to go. Hey, Frederick S. says, hey, Derek, ndewo nwanne. I see the love, man. Much love to you, too. Let's see who's all in here. I got 4 people in here. Once we get to 15, I'm going to go ahead and start the discussion. This one's going to be really an open discussion. I want to hear what you guys have to say because the verdict is not out yet. All right. So, the topic today is generational offenses, generational crimes, generational sins, things that happened in the past, things that our ancestors did. Are we as people guilty? I want to get you guys' thoughts on that once we start talking. Kofo, ndewo nwanne. Udo nwanne. Udo. Kofo says hi. We're already at 8. Damn, maybe 15 was too modest. We're already at 8. But for some reason, we're at 8 and only 2 of you have hit like. So I don't know what kind of generational offense I've caused. I don't know which one of my ancestors did the wrong thing. I don't know why you guys can't just hit that like button. You know, maybe it's beef. Maybe it's personal. Maybe you guys just forgot. If you forgot, go ahead and hit the like button. We always want to make sure it's even, right? I'm not OCD about too many things, but that like button I am. So we got 8 people in here and only 3 have hit the like button. The 5 of you who are holding on to that button, can you explain to me what the problem is, right? Let's work through this. And there, well, Frederick says, Frederick, you're jumping the gun. We haven't started talking yet. We haven't started talking yet. Once we get 15 people in here, I'm going to break RG, and then we'll begin the discussion, right? So the topic is there too much sunlight? Hold on. I'm trying to change my direction. I think this is better. All right, so the topic is generational offenses, generational curses. I get asked a lot about generational curses, things like that. So we're going to discuss all that today. We're going to discuss as much of it as we can today. Um, but once we get 15 people in here, the discussion starts. So, for those of you who are new, my name is Derek Ofadoronwa, Derek Duru Ofadoronwa. Um, um, I had a thought, so I'll just keep it to myself. But my name is Derek Duru Ofadoronwa. I am the host of the Medicine Shell. So here I talk about Igbo spirituality, culture, and cosmology. Um, if you're new to the channel and this is a topic that's interesting to you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you want to support the channel and support the movement, I call it a movement at this point, go ahead and join us at our Patreon community, patreon.com/the medicine show. So patrons have full access to my research library, which is unbelievably extensive. I just added a new book. It's called African Spirituality, and Anthology of African Myths and things like that. So that book is in there like in PDF form. It is a collection of different myths, and myths is a rough word. Folk tales, tales from Igbo cosmology and Igbo culture. A lot of these I have made videos about. A lot of the stories I've made videos about. I've added little graphics and animations, things like that on the channel. But it's always good to go straight to the source and then see things that I haven't even brought up, right? One of the ones I read here was the reason why Chuku sends men to war rather than women. That story's in there. I thought it was hilarious, and I completely agreed with everything in. I completely agreed with everything in there, right? So if you want to know what I'm talking about, it's all in there. But I have books like this. I have like close to 300 documents, right? Documents, books, articles, firsthand things, all that stuff, all in there, all organized by topic. So all of that is available to every single patron. If you're available coming in, or if you're comfortable coming in at the $5 level or 25, all of it, that's available to you as well. We are currently in Onwa Agon. This is the moon of Agon. Onwa Agon in Igbo communities is one of the things you're going to see in every single community is some type of major masquerade is going to come out at this time. And this is going to be the masquerade that when it comes out traditionally, it's also going to come out with in different forms. And one of the forms is going to be one that comes out at night or one that's very militant and military and very tough, right? And when you see those ones, right, if you're not an initiate into the masquerade society, your ass has to run. Your ass has to run because that society is in control of the community uh, spiritually and culturally for the entire moon. This is a moon of cleansing. They're doing this as a part of a cleansing and atonement time. So this is actually one of the reasons I picked this specific topic. This is an atonement and cleansing time. Please do not enter the new moon with any beefs and grudges, anything like that. Anything you promised yourself you would do last year that you didn't achieve, apologize to yourself, apologize to your ancestors. I just spit. Ugh. Apologize to yourself, apologize to your ancestors, apologize to your chi, and renew your vow, right? So this is the time to do it, right? Renew your vow, make new vows, make new oaths, that type of thing, right? So somebody says, good evening, Uncle Derek. Bug smell. Okay, yeah, bug smell. That's a crazy name. Can do Derek. Imana for this message today. Thank you very much, Nigerians. I appreciate it. I think we have a responsibility to fix the things we can. Oh, okay, I can't read that. Frederick, man, you almost tripped me up. So we are at 10. Did we reach 15 while I was talking? Did we reach 15? Well, I don't think we reached 15. I think we got to like 13, and then they said, what is this guy talking about, and left. So once we get to 15, we're going to go ahead and get this talk started. Today's topic is on generational or past crimes. Past crimes, past violations, past offenses. Are we guilty for them? Are we guilty for the sins of our ancestors? That's a concise way to say it. Are we guilty for the sins of our ancestors, right? And there will no, and there will rude mechanicals, and there will one day. Always good to see you. I appreciate you for being so consistent with the support. But once we get to 15 people, we're gonna start the discussion, right? Once we get to Danielle, and there will one day. Good evening to you too. And there will. I want to know where everybody's from, by the way, and where everybody is at. I am in the Midwest right now, in an undisclosed location, right? All right, we're at 13. By the way, if you guys want to get this thing started, or if you just want to support what's going on, post this wherever you can. Post a link to this on Twitter. Post a link to this on Facebook, TikTok, wherever you can. I'm working on opening a TikTok for the Medicine Show. I've just been like watching all week, maybe week and a half, to figure out like what to do on TikTok, right? I don't want to just repost my content, so I want to do something unique, but I don't know how the whole app works. So I'm just watching and trying to find channels I like so I can do what I do in a form that fits that platform. So if you're on TikTok, I've already opened the account. It's the Medicine Show. Just go ahead and follow. I haven't posted anything yet though, but I'll keep you guys updated. So we are at 11. I think I'm talking too much. Harlem in the house. Currently living in Thailand. Wow, that's really cool. Los Angeles. Nice. And there, whoa. I'm trying to remember whose time zones are what, but one of you guys is here very late as far as the US people. And then Thailand, what is this, like 2 a.m.? What time is it what time is it in Thailand? And there, whoa. Okay. 12. Once we get to 15, we'll begin the discussion. Again, this is Derek Ofarenwa. We are going to be discussing the sins of our ancestors, the crimes of our ancestors. Are we guilty for what our ancestors did? It is 8. Okay, it's pretty early in the morning, or reasonably early in the morning. It's going to blow up on TikTok. We'll see. Well, I appreciate it, Frederick. But yeah, we'll see. But I don't know how to present it on TikTok. Do I post short clips of what I'm already doing there? Do I do an entirely different format or whatever, that kind of thing? When I was Christian, we were okay. All right, Debbie, you're cheating. We have hit 15, but I gotta tell Debbie she's cheating. We weren't supposed to start discussing until we hit 15 people, but we hit 15 people. So Debbie, I think it was because you started. So I appreciate you for doing what you did. It is 2 a.m. in Abuja. Wow. Okay, Frederick, thank you for being here, man. That's a sacrifice. All right, Kaibido. So anything pertaining to Ndibo, right? Sometimes I say Odinani, and I don't want to create this impression that there's a difference between Odinani and being an Igbo person, because Odinani is a term that was recently made up to so that we can refer to Igbo thoughts, Igbo ancestral thoughts as a whole. So a lot of it, I mean, all of it is spiritual because that's just who we are as people. But it ties into a whole bunch of other things. So if you meet like a 70-year-old man, you say Odinani, he won't know what you're talking about. But if you just say Igbo, he'll Igbo means Odinani to him. You understand, right? So, but it's because of the church, right? Because now people want to say I'm Igbo and I'm Anglican, right? And so you can't you can't say Igbo people believe, because then this jackass will say he doesn't believe that, right? So we got to say Odinani now. So, but don't worry, we'll fix that soon. But all right, y'all, let's begin. I'm in Trinidad and Tobago. Wow, that's dope. That's dope. All right, Kaibido. So anything pertaining to Igbo culture, anytime you begin by breaking Oji. The person who is holding the Oji is representing their ancestors and is speaking for our collective ancestors. While holding the Oji, the person cannot lie, cannot curse others, cannot exhibit a character that defames ancestors, that defames their ancestors and our collective ancestors and so forth. So it's a big honor holding this particular thing, right? It's a big honor getting to hold this particular thing, but I'm holding it now, and we're going to go ahead and begin, okay? Okikekerua, alawala, ala nemado na nemo, ala nenyendo, ala nenye hioma, na-enye ụmụ, na-enye nri. Eji m ọjị na-ekele gị. Ndị ichem, ndị ọkpụ na ndị ichem, ndị mbụ na ndị egede, ndị mmadụ na ndị mmụọ, ụmụ ajana na ụmụ kpakpando eluigwe, ọjị abịala. Ọjị m ji n'aka bụ ọjị edozi, nke anyị ji edozi onwe anyị, mana ọ m na-ekwu otu unu fọ m bụ otu m dị. Aka m dị ọcha, ụkwụ m dị ọcha, obi m dị ọcha, ihu m dị ọcha, adị m ọcha na mmadụ, dị ọcha na mmụọ, mana ana m aga ebe okike ekere onye ọzọ ka ọ gaa. Ọwụ ije ụwa m ka m na-aga. Onye mere ka m ji ọjị taa na-ekele unu. Otu a ka ọ ga-adị n'Eke, n'Orie, n'Afọ, na Nkwọ. Ise. All right, so in essence, what I've just said is when you're holding the Oji, and most of you are familiar with it now, but I always explain for the person who hasn't been here before. If you're holding the Oji, you are speaking on behalf of Ndimado, the living people, that kind of thing, and Ndimmo, spirits, the non-living, and so forth, right? So the person holding that thing is representing both of those ends. You're representing all the elements it takes to create you, what we refer to as the Abara. Those are the elements of the universe that create the universe. You are also, and most importantly, representing your ancestors. By holding this, I am a living ancestor. And so I have to live and speak as they lived and spoke. So a lot of what I said was my worthiness of holding this thing. Why am I worthy of holding the Oji today and speaking before you guys? Well, I said that my hands were clean, my heart was clean, my feet were clean, my face was clean, because I haven't placed my person in somebody else's path, right? Be it you're trying to take what doesn't belong to you, or be it that you are standing in front of somebody as they are moving towards where their creator created them or sent them to go. I've not put myself, my person, in the path of another. Rather, I am on the path that my own creator created for me to walk, right? And so that was what I said to declare my worthiness of holding the orgy. It's a normal thing. Those of you who are familiar with the 40, I always reference it, the 48 laws of Ma'at, I'm going to tell you right now that is exactly what that person was doing. I wrote that there. That is exactly what that person was doing. The person has a gift. This is a person that has a gift that came to them from beyond, right? And they are reaffirming their worthiness of holding and having that gift. So in reaffirming that worthiness, you list off the things, you make a lot of what they call negative statements or negating statements, right? I have not done this, 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 on and on and on and on. You can go as long as you want, you can keep it as short as you want, that kind of thing, right? In making those statements, you are saying that you are worthy of holding the awful, right? For those of you who need to know what the awful is, I have a video called Awful Explained. It's one of my personal favorites, so go check it out. But OFO, that's how you spell awful. OFO, explained. It's also where I get my name, Awful Derengwa, the child with the awful within, right? So a person holding an awful has a set divine authority. There's a divine authority that you have in this world, but it doesn't belong to you. You're a custodian of that mission or of that gift. And that gift is attached to a mission. And that mission was sent to you by your creator. So it's not yours. That all falls not necessarily yours, but you have to reaffirm your worthiness of holding it. The example I always use with the all fall is the idea of like a babysitter, right? So you leave a babysitter with your kids. You give the babysitter the keys to the house. You may even give them like a cell phone to use. Maybe they don't have their own cell phone. I don't know. I was gonna say like what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something really analog, but I can't remember. But you give them just everything they need to take care of your children. You give the babysitter everything they need to take care of your children. And then you leave and you let that person take care of your children. And then when they come back, okay, the kids are asleep. They ate at 7:30. They went to sleep at 5. That doesn't even make any sense. They went to sleep at 8:30. I changed this one's diaper. That one got in the shower. All that stuff, right? That's what you're doing. So you receive the gifts. The person you are all people are gifted, right? You are a gifted person. As this is how our ancestors see it. Every single person is gifted because every single person was created for a reason. And there is a specific path in the world that person is supposed to walk. And in that path, there is nothing you will face that will ever be stronger than you or overwhelm you or that you cannot overcome. Because if you were sent on this mission, your creator also equipped you with every single thing you need to succeed on that mission or to walk it gracefully. The ilu that describes this is, and is one of my favorites, is the chi of a blind man. When the chi of a blind man sends him into battle, it has already accounted for his blindness, right? So if your chi says, go into battle, and you go, but my chi, I'm blind, right? You tell your chi, I'm blind. Your chi's response is, I know, just go. And you're going to win, right? You are absolutely going to win. There's no two ways about it. You understand? It's a law. Once you receive an all fall for something, it's a law of nature. Just like this thing falling, that's a law of nature doing that. It's not a matter of if it tries very, very hard or if it does its best, it's going to fall. No. Law of nature, it's going to fall. Law of nature, you have an all fall that is specific to you as an individual. And much of the journey of Odinani, of an Igbo person, is figuring out what that is. And then rising to the occasion, rising to the destiny, that kind of thing. Confidently and very sure that you will succeed because you were created to be, do, actualize whatever it is that we're talking about, right? So I spoke on my worthiness when I was breaking the Oji. I spoke on my worthiness of holding that Oji. More or less, I haven't used my hands, my feet, my mouth, my heart to commit evil against anybody, right? At least since the last time not at least, yeah, at least since the last time I spoke to them, right? Not that I'm out here committing evil, right? But, I did some things when I was younger, and I wouldn't call them evil, but like, you get into fights and things like that when you're younger. So that kind of thing. But as of right now, since the last time we spoke, I haven't used my hands. to keep anybody from what is divine and sacred to them, which is their person and their journey and their truth, right? That kind of thing. So that's that. And then I greeted my ancestors and I greeted everything it took to create me. So as far as Odinani goes, it's very difficult to call this ceremony prayer, right? I think there's a pressure that gets created by proximity to the Abrahamic religions to be like, okay, what's your prayer, right? Um, it's that's not a prayer, right? Because I'm not really I'm just acknowledging everything it took to create me. I acknowledge my creator. I acknowledge the earth, right? Whatever force created me, whatever name you give it, so on and so forth, I just said the creator, right? I acknowledge the creator. I acknowledge the earth because the earth is of course, I want to find the person who was created by something that is not of the earth or was not created by the earth. So I acknowledged her. Now she's a mother, right? And I know from knowing my mother and knowing my wife and knowing my sister and knowing all my friends who are women, that they want to be acknowledged, right? They like acknowledgement. So I gave her acknowledgments. I said, mother who gives life, who gives good things, who gives children, who gives home or a shelter, that kind of thing. I acknowledge all the things I receive from the earth, right? I then acknowledged Ndimbu Nandiegede, the first people to ever exist, and Ndiegede are the exalted ancestors, the ones who figured it out, the ones who finally figured out the truth of the universe and distilled it to the rest of us in what we call Omenala, or culture, human culture, right? I greeted Umuajana na Umu Papando Eligwe, which is children of sand and star. Children of sand and star. So all of us are Umu Ajana na Papando Eligwe. So this is what Ndibo believe, that we're all made of stardust and sand. That's what they believe. And it's a fact. And what's the term they use? Scientists have now confirmed, right? And so forth. So that was really what I did when I was breaking the Oji. No one, the one who made the coconut put water in it. One, I like that. Hey, Frederick. You must be all Zol in your hometown. Yeah. So all right, let's go ahead and begin the discussion. So the discussion is: are you guilty for the sins of your ancestors? Or is there a debt owed from you for what was done by the you before you, the previous yous? Now, there was some answers, so let me go ahead and check out what was going on. I think we have a responsibility to fix the things that we can, but guilty, actually not. Frederick, do you want to elaborate on that? So Frederick says that we have a responsibility to fix what we can as far as the sins of the past, but we are not personally guilty for them. Why do you think we're not guilty? Frederick, I want to hear your answer. Why do you think we're not guilty? I'll give my answer once I've heard a few of you guys' answers too. Also, this may be a short one. I got 27% battery and I'm outside. So, okay, Debbie says, when I was Christian, we were taught that generational curses was something that we paid for. The ancestral spirits were sent to make sure we paid for it. Damn. So so Debbie, in the Christian view, or let me say maybe your denomination, the belief was that your ancestors, the specific role of your ancestors was to punish you for what they did in the past, right? I don't know if I'm missing out on the chats. I'm not seeing the chats. I don't know. This topic comes up a lot surrounding in the U.S. surrounding slavery. The plot thickens. Yes, I've heard this one come up a lot. I've heard the you can't blame me for something someone did 400 years ago. That kind of thing. I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that, especially with the reparations discussion and so forth. So I don't know if you guys are like scared to answer or like or if my thing is jammed and I'm not getting any responses. But I really want to hear what you guys think. This is not set in stone. There's no correct answer. I'll share what I have to say as well. But again, I'm just interested in what you guys have to say as far as the topic goes. I don't know if again, I don't know if I'm not seeing the chats or oh, okay, all right, I figured it out. There we go. No, no, I was seeing it right. Could you ask it again? How can a person be guilty of something they didn't do? Ha 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 says, how can a person be guilty of something they didn't do? How can somebody inherit a house they didn't buy? How can somebody inherit a house they didn't buy? Right? Let's answer that question. Danielle says, can you ask again? Okay, so the question is, are we guilty of the offenses, crimes, sins of our ancestors, right? Do we owe, or is there a burden, is the burden of guilt something that passes down ancestrally, right? I think we're not guilty because we have no personal agency at the time. Frederick, I think we should have a discussion about agency, right? About agency. Where does agency begin and end? Because if somebody has a psychiatric condition that causes them to harm another person, the harm has still been done. And you'll say, well, their mind was configured a certain way that caused them to have that crime, to do that crime. But again, agency. There's a level of agency you have when you're hungry, and the level of agency you have when you're full, the level of agency you have when you're rich, poor, so on and so forth. So when all these things, and there's thousands of them you can list off, to me, there are these little tiny decisions, like the wiggle room for personal agency is very small in general for people, right? But we still punish the same, we still judge the same, and so forth. Or maybe we should stop the chill on the punishing and the judging, right? Okay, you did do it. You just don't have the memory anymore. Oh, damn. NW says you did do the crime. You just don't have the memory anymore. That's very interesting. I like that. Inheritance is different from guilt. Okay, ha ha ha. Let's have that discussion. How is inheritance? I can't talk today. How is inheritance different from guilt? Because you said inheritance is different from guilt. Okay. Because let's say, people inherit land, people inherit houses, people inherit glory, people inherit social status, right? Well, if a couple of window or a couple of doors get open based on who your parents are, based on the name of your parents, right? People inherit names, you know? People inherit achievements. My family was the first family to we built the pyramids. We built the pyramids, right? So if you built the pyramids, what, all that crazy stuff you were doing in between time. I'm being difficult today, by the way, guys. So there's no right or wrong answer. Any answer you guys give me, I'm gonna flip it on its head, or try to flip it on its head. Anyways, you guys are very intelligent. You'll catch the kung fu I'm doing. So, uh, do you think it's right to cancel someone over stupid shit they said or did years ago, knowing that we grow every day as humans? Well, everything is linked to our current justice system. Damn, Zoto, you've asked a very, very relevant and very important question. Is it right to cancel somebody for something they did in the past? Um, is it right to cancel somebody for something they did in the past? I don't, I don't, I don't, I have a very radical view on like judgment and things like that, right? Or like, offenses and stuff. I have a very radical view on that. That's not normal or not, it's not common. But I will say that, okay, if canceling is people disengaging from you, right? Like, let's say Let's say you guys watch my channel and you figure out that when I was 12 I was doing something you don't agree with. You have every right in the world to disengage from me and say, okay, I don't want to be to deal with this person, right? That kind of thing. You have every right in the world to disengage from me. If it becomes a legal thing, like if somebody can now get in legal trouble, or you know what I mean, like if it can be, if there's a punitive element, right? Legal, not just we're not going to support this person's music or channel or whatever anymore. You guys can make Anybody can make that choice. That's a consequence of free choice, right? Now, do people get kind of like, obnoxious with the thing? Yeah, sure, that kind of thing. But everybody has a choice to disengage with from whoever they want to disengage from. Also, I don't think like I don't know if you can cancel somebody that doesn't have like a platform or some type of like vested interest in the public eye. So I don't even know if that's relevant for everybody, right? I have seen situations where like maybe somebody will be racist and they'll call their place of work and be like, "Hey, this is your employee. This is," and the person like loses their job, things like that. It's an interesting case. In general, do I think that people should be canceled for things they did in the past? Not really, but everybody has the right to engage and disengage as they want to. So if canceling is not engaging, oh, we're not going to support this person anymore, yeah, you have the right. Why would I support somebody I don't agree with? I need to turn the lights on in here. So, if my father robbed somebody, should I go to jail? Says, if my father robbed somebody, should I go to jail? Oh man, that's a good question. No, I don't think you should go to jail if your father robs somebody. Okay, so that's your example for, is inheritance the same thing as guilt? Now, let me ask you a question. If your father robbed somebody and you are not aware of this, and your father passes, and you now see that the actions of your father has advantaged you but has disadvantaged the other person, what do you feel is your level of guilt in the situation, right? Do you feel that maybe you should give them back what was stolen from them? This is my question to ha 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 ha. Right? Do you feel that what your father took from them, which you are enjoying, should be given back to them? Right? Somebody goes, "Oh, your your father assaulted my mother." Do you feel that you should? Would you apologize next? Would you be like, "Oh, I'm sorry about that," right? Would you apologize next? Would you feel any guilt? Would you feel guilt? I'm not talking about legal guilt. When we talk about go to jail, I mean that's legal structural guilt. I'm talking about what you would feel, right? If your father robbed somebody and you weren't aware, because let's say you were aware, you'd get time to get used to it and that kind of thing, but you weren't aware, and the person lets you know, your father robbed us, my family, when I was a wee youngin, you know? Would you feel guilty about that? Or would you just be like, hey, what did Cameron say? People get robbed every day, B. I wanted to know what your answer is on that. I guess I asked you like 20 questions. Pale Horse says, whose voice you steal? Well, I have my dad's voice. It's kind of a ridiculous question, but I sound like my dad if you need to know. I'm late. What are we doing? Hey, first and foremost, thanks for being here, and it's always good seeing you. The discussion is, are we guilty for the crimes of our ancestors? Do the crimes of the past follow us into the present? And I'm trying to challenge everybody's thoughts on it. If you say yes, I'm going to come with the no argument. If you say no, I'm going to come with the yes argument. And then I'll share what I think towards the end, though I'm sure it's impossible not to leak my bias into whatever I'm saying. So, yeah. I'll do my. All right. But do you think it's right? Okay, yes. Okay, so I think everybody's done commenting or what? Let me see. I think everybody is done commenting. I at least wanted to get an answer from ha ha ha. Ha 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 says it asks a really good question. If my father robbed somebody, should I go to jail? My answer was no. And then I asked him because the idea was there's a difference. He had expressed the idea that there's a difference between guilt and inheritance because I had used, anyways, I don't go too far back. So I had said, would you feel guilty about it? Would you feel guilty if somebody comes up to you and goes, your dad robbed me in '83. All right, the Hebrew Israelites say we were enslaved because we was disobedient in the wilderness and whatnot, and the curses come to today. Okay, I've heard that I've heard that idea too. I've heard that idea too. A lot of Igbo people believe imperialism was a sort of punishment for the fact that we had gone wayward as well. So it's not, the Hebrew Israelite view on that is not too far off the mark, right? That we had gone very wayward and it was punishment. And there's a lot of like poetic ironies in the way the imperialism happened that lend me to feel the same way. Hey, Isaac. Hey. It's my neighbor. Hey, Brianna. Say each of us are like one cell in a body of our bloodline. Damn. I wouldn't say each cell is guilty, but they can get dragged in. Oh, the plot thickens. If the left hand hits somebody, the right hand has to put up its guard. Damn. All right. That is very intelligent. I like what you said there. So is it possible then? Is it possible then to have an idea of justice? Because justice requires discernment or separation, right? It has to be you that did it, right? We have to figure out who did this thing. And when we figure out who did this thing, we can't punish their children, we can't punish their wives, we can't punish whatever, right? I understand, your analogy about the body is very apt. I completely understand that. But when we now come to enact justice or the way we measure these things amongst each other, it's impossible to do without being able to isolate perpetrators, right? So if we can't isolate perpetrators, how can we even have an idea of justice? Frederick S. says, define wayward. So what gets said a lot by a lot of very knowledgeable people as far as the Igbo tradition goes, is that the Odinani, let's call it the Odinani that the Europeans landed on and encountered was far below the level of what it was prior. And a lot was lost because people started to use what they knew to manipulate, take advantage of each other, so on and so forth. So, for example, the slave trade, right? There was catching and kidnapping and buying and selling of people and selling them to foreign lands well before the Europeans landed. Now, it was going to the Europeans, it was going to the Arabs, a little, not really Arabs that much, mainly Europeans. It was going to the Europeans and so forth. But by the time they came, a lot of the communities were so decimated by it, they couldn't even defend themselves, right? They couldn't even defend themselves. One of the reasons it was so easy for the church to move through Igbo land is that a lot of the things I'm telling you or teaching you about was twisted on his head and used to manipulate people, to take advantage in situations like the slave trade and so forth. So when you have that situation happening, you have that going on, when somebody comes with another idea, everybody runs immediately to it. So I said there was a lot of poetic ironies you see. The first people to convert to the church were the people who were in Igbo land. Hey, Isaac. The people who were in Igbo land, but they were enslaved. Okay, hi, Brianna. Sorry. The people who were in... It's all good. The people who were in Igbo land, but they were enslaved, right? I read this really good book on the Ekumeku resistance, right? The Ekumeku resistance was like an armed kind of guerrilla resistance against colonialism that happened for like 30 years in Igbo land. The colonialism of Igbo land was a very short period, so it happened every year except like the last 10, basically, right? So about 30 years. And so these people were resisting, but the people who converted first were the people in that society who the society had oppressed. These were people who were slaves, people who were enslaved in that society. They converted to the church. They said, the old guard is bad for me, and this new thing that's coming might be better. So let me go over here and see what they're talking about. So once they converted, they were free, they can do whatever, whatever. And then those were the people who then, and so forth, end up establishing the Christian kind of order we have now. Now, I will say this, and then also the Akumeku, the people doing the resistance were the rich people. They were the rich people, they were the privileged people, they were the people that were benefiting from the old world, the old order. And a lot of them were using these things to hold down the other ones, right? Or hold down the other ones. But if you hear much of what I talk about and much of what we practice, it's the idea of what we say is that we have an understanding of the world as a world of equality and equilibrium. And once that equilibrium is broken, whatever goes up will be brought back down in a way that it's very obvious, right? So that's kind of what I was talking about with the waywardness and all that stuff, mainly with the introduction of the slave trade and things like that's the big shrine and the long juju in Arochukwu, and that kind of thing. That was just a big scam. It was a big fraud. So things like that. All right. So I think it would be pretty detrimental for a child conceived via assault to carry guilt from how they were conceived. That is a very, very, very true statement. I think it would be detrimental for a child conceived by via assault to carry guilt from how they were conceived. Yes, it would be completely. I can't even like pretend to disagree with that. The next one, I think it depends. Oh, Emmy. Kedu one. I think it depends on what was stolen and how long ago the theft happened. I wouldn't feel guilty if what my dad did to the wait. I wouldn't feel guilty for what my dad did to the person. However, I feel sympathy for the person. So you would feel bad that something bad happened in general, but you wouldn't think you had any closer relationship to that bad action than any other person, right? Using the religion of the people that savagely conquered you to rationalize why you got savage is a little wonky. Person, I don't know how you heard that and what I said. That's definitely not what I said. I said that whenever, and this happens worldwide all the time, whenever a new order comes in, whether you want to call it a conquering order, an imperial order, whatever, whenever there's a strong gust of change, forceful, consensual, violent, so on and so forth, the first people in that society that will adapt to it are the people who the society is not benefiting, right? The people who the society is not benefiting. Our ancestors did not set up a society that is supposed to take advantage of people and destroy people, but that was happening before the Europeans came. You understand? So that is the 360 on the whole thing. In just a second. There we go. Try to get the lights on. So, in our own culture, if you follow Odinani, if you understand how Odinani works, the idea of enslaving a person is it makes no sense. It doesn't fit into that worldview, but it was happening, right? And enough of it happened, and the way it ended was through the colonialism, whether we want to admit it or not. That was the end of slavery in that era. So in that region. So yeah, it's there's a lot of circular kind of ironic things that would lead me to think that there's a connection, and a lot of people. I'm not alone in thinking this either. So Ironic how the evangelical church now manipulates people in Niger, and now they are turning back to their ancestry. And now they're turning back to their ancestral worldview because it to escape the manipulation that they're under from this new order, right? Let nobody think I'm saying that the church came and it was just better. You understand? It's just that when a big change comes, the people who go to it are the people who are not advantaged by the society. The people who resist it are the people who are advantaged by that society. You understand? Whatever that new order brings, that same cycle will happen again and again and again, right? So, are you in Igbo land now? No, I'm in the U.S. Do you think that you have to pay victims of your dad's wrong? Do you think you have to pay the victims of your dad's wrongdoings in the past? Ah, do I think? And I'm gonna think a lot about these things too, because I don't have like there's no concrete like yes or no. I don't. I think that everybody's viewpoint on this is valid, and I think it's obviously a complicated thing, right? Hold on. So, do you think you have to pay the victims of your dad's wrongdoings in the past? Um, at my core, yes. At my core, I believe so. And the reason I believe so is because whatever I have, a big portion of what I have is the result of what my father shared with me or didn't share with me, right? Well, let me say shared with me because he did share, right? So my dad steals from somebody and he uses his ill-gotten wealth to feed me and put me through school and bring me to America and do all these things. And then I meet the person or I finally know what happened, right? It would be right if I am to represent a growth, a generational growth, or a breaking of a negative generational cycle. It would be right for me to atone for what happened in some way, in some way, shape, or form. Now, it doesn't mean, right? It doesn't mean that um, it may not come in the form of just giving them back the exact same amount of money. Because when somebody is stolen from, a lot more happens than the exchange or the wrongful exchange of money, right? You're also hurting that person emotionally. You may be setting them back somehow, some way. You're betraying their trust. You may be traumatizing them based on what happened, right? So the return is not going to look exactly the same. Oh, your dad, I don't know, stole my pet, It's not that I'm gonna go get you another dog, that kind of thing. But I would feel something because of that. That's wrong. He shouldn't have done that. You understand? That's not right. Now, sometimes when we feel difficult feelings, the next instinct is to resist that negative feeling. And then in that resistance, we have two choices: to separate ourselves from what happened, which can come in the form of denial or, well, that's not me, right? Or to justify it, to say, well, it's deserved, or, well, yeah, that was my dad, he was gangster, that kind of thing. So the urge to justify it, right? But yeah, if my dad did something to somebody, I would feel a little guilty for it. If my grandfather did something, I'd feel that I should probably make this right. And then sometimes the person's not asking for anything, right? Sometimes maybe the acknowledgement, right? That's what I mean by the reparation for the issue is multifaceted. It's not just, oh, my dad did something, okay, here. If there's a pain still being felt that you feel the need to express to me, right? Then I'm the person in position to fix that, right? Because if any of them pass, these are the people I come from, and they leave a house behind, I get it. If they leave a car behind, I get it, right? In my own culture, not it's different for different people, that kind of thing. So if I'm gonna get the good, right, I should also be responsible for the bad. That's my answer to that one. For justice sake, if I benefited from the oppression, hold on, wait. For justice sake, if I benefited from the oppression of my ancestors against another group, I feel obligated to make amends for what my ancestors did. Interesting. Something that is interesting. Okay, so Emmy says consequence does not equate guilt. You can address consequences of someone's actions without being or feeling guilty for it. That's a very good point. If you see trash on the ground, you pick it up without any sense of guilt. Nice. Um, Emmy, let me ask you, if you see trash on the ground and you continue walking past it, right? You continue walking past it. Is it imaginable that a person would feel guilt for not acting, for not doing the right thing? But yeah, I think something like littering is a good example. You know, we pick up each other's trash all the time, not because we did it, and really not because of guilt, you know, but because we feel that something wrong has a justice is owed. A justice is owed, right? I owe justice to this room. I owe justice to this forest, this environment, and so forth, right? A justice is owed. So, ha 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 says, I think it depends on what he stole. Is it within my power to fix the wrongdoings or what my father has done? You know what's interesting too is objects depreciate so fast that by the time, let's say we're talking about years later, there's no way that person wants that object. It's very unlikely they want that specific object back, right? It's very unlikely that they want that specific object back. Usually, if this thing is being brought up, there's a feeling that is still alive from that incident. There's a feeling that's alive from that incident. And that person feels you might have the key to rectifying the feeling or giving them something that they need to make the feeling right. That something is owed from you, right? That kind of thing. He's going to need anesthesia for the Ichi mark. Oh, man. Off topic, but I watched your short on Ichi, and I remember in a video that you said you would like to become an Nze in your community. If you do, would you get the Ichi? Oh man, that's a really good question. I've thought about it. Yeah, no, I've thought about it. I'm going to continue thinking about it. I'm leaning more towards no. They don't do the Ichi marks anymore. There's a lot of Nzes, but they don't do the Ichi marks anymore. They do like a ceremonial form where they'll draw. Like I think they use charcoal, but I could be wrong. But they'll draw the lines on your head, right? But back in the day, they put that thing in there, you know. So I've thought about it. I'll continue thinking about it. I'm not super against the idea, but I don't think I will. I don't have any tattoos right now, and so forth. So I'm just not that kind of person, you know. All my scars are on accident. Emmy, I agree with your statements. Okay, yes, no. Emmy is the highest form of thinker. I agree with many of his statements. So yeah. All right. So, anyways, I was thinking about this one. For sake of the opposite or Wednesdays into a group, I would feel obliged to make what my ancestors did right. Hey, person, nothing's stopping you. You can, you can join me. Person, yeah, you can come do yours the same time I do mine. You know, we can do it together, and you can get carved up. You know, and we'll do it together. Shit, that's funny. I go all the way. I take mine to the head. I take this title to the head. Yeah. Like I said, I'm still thinking about it. You know, when it's interesting too because my objection for not doing it is very vain, and that probably implies I'm not ready. So the reason I'm not saying a hard no is that maybe one day I'll be ready, right? But my objection for not doing it is vain, which is sign number one that you're not ready, right? So it's like a natural deterrent of people who are not 100% serious or 100% ready. I'd go all the way. That shit was funny. I think the question of whether you should feel guilt will be answered by your own life. Bloodline guilt should be between you, the bloodline, and the victims. Interesting. This is a recurring theme in a lot of movies. Yes, it's a very common theme. That is interesting. Okay, let me see if I can think of another, if I can challenge that idea. I think the question, what's up? It happens. Yeah. I think the question of whether you should feel the guilt will be answered by your own life. You know, you see these things. That's why I use that example of Igbo land in 1800s, early 1900s, and so forth. There's a lot of little interesting kind of circular things that happen where it's like this is too. If you were to write it in a movie, it'd seem unbelievable, right? So, for example, now the Maxim machine gun. I don't know if it was that was the model of it, but like the automatic machine gun was the weapon that the North invented in the Civil War that was allowed them to defeat the South, right? But that same machine gun was the one that they used to colonize Africa, right? Or to colonize my part of Africa, well, all of Africa, that kind of thing. That was the nuclear bomb of its time, right? So it's interesting to me that this gun that ends slavery over there comes back and does this thing, you know. And the first community that was really ransacked by it was the community that was the headquarters of the slave trade in Igbo land. That was the first one they went after, right? That kind of thing. Today's conversation kind of reminds me of last week's video where you mentioned how your brother felt angry because your other brother failed class. Yeah. Almost like he was taking ownership for the alien. Yeah. It's a very African way of thinking. Nook says North, like North Nigeria. No, I'm sorry, North. The American Civil War. American Civil War is happening. I think it was the bloodiest conflict. Uh, of that era. Just it was extremely bloody conflict. It was a lot of it was a stalemate. But then what ended up ending the stalemate, like making it impossible for the South to win, among many reasons. But the main weapon was the invention of the automatic machine gun, right? Because that was the nuclear bomb of its time, right? You get you can clear out a whole town with a Maxim gun, right? That kind of thing. And then the British get a hold of this gun and go to Africa, and because they had been this idea that like the Europeans came and they started taking over Africa. That's not how it happened, right? They had been the like the Ashanti, for example, had fought the British for nearly 100 years, and they had been fighting in all these different places, and they couldn't completely penetrate. They couldn't come in all the way, right? It wasn't something they can do because both sides had guns, both sides knew how to fight and all that stuff. But once they got a hold of that Maxim machine gun, that very specific machine gun, there's nothing anyone can do at that time. There's nothing anyone can do. You see an image of it in the movie Zulu, right? So the Europeans had been fighting the Zulus, things like that. And it wasn't working out for the Europeans. Then they got a hold of this machine gun and killed thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So what the British realized was that, one, if we have this gun, one, we don't always have to use it. It's the threat that is enough to say, okay, let's not fight these guys. Let's hear what they have to say, you know? And then two, there were a lot of people in these African societies who were not benefiting from the status quo. And they were very willing to cooperate with the coming new power so that their life can change, right? Like right now, let me not say anything crazy, but yeah, it's all a part of it. It's all a part of it. So to understand, you have to understand the full picture, right? That kind of thing. That's why you don't oppress people in your society. That's why you don't cheat people, that kind of thing. Odeshi couldn't save my people. There was no Odeshi for that one now. Not 100% on this answer, but for now, I'll just say we should try to rectify the mistakes of the past if we can. But if we aren't personally responsible, we shouldn't feel guilty. Okay. The reason why I say depends on what your ancestors stole, because one, how far back? Okay, so haha is saying that like if it goes too far back, the other person needs to quit tripping, right? Or maybe I'm putting words in your mouth. Correct me if I'm wrong. Haha is saying that okay, we need to check how far, like some metrics on the crime or the theft. One, how far back did the wrongdoing happen, and then two, what was stolen? What was it that was stolen? Right? Like for okay, for there's an example. So as the British are running through Africa, things like that, they make a lot of people forfeit a lot of their valuables, right? So their weapons for sure, you're forfeiting all of that. So a lot of like ancient or let me say not ancient, but like a lot of like indigenous weaponry in Africa, it's hard to find. It's hard to find because a lot of it was destroyed. But then like things like masks, all these different things get stolen and sent to the damn Louvre and the British Museum and the Smithsonian and all that stuff, right? And so now there's a lot of pressure that, hey, you guys should return these things. You guys should bring these things that were stolen back, right? Now, some people in these societies feel guilt for the theft. Like, yeah, that's not right. Right? It's not that you're walking around like, oh man, in 1712 my grandfather stole an Odeshi. No, you're not walking around like that. But when you encounter the story, when the story is told to you, maybe when you see the artifact, some people will feel a sense that there's an injustice going on here. This is an injustice, right? And are that feeling, is it right? Right? Because part of that feeling is my ancestors did this. So in a way I did this, right? I stole that and I should send it back. I should give it back. Those kinds of things, right? So if somebody says, what was the thing? I think there was let me go to MEME's comments on that. Anyways, I can't find it right now. But yeah, so that kind of thing. There's a guilt, and then there's also the idea that okay, I didn't steal that thing, but I'm benefiting from it right now, right? It's in my museum. People are flying all over the world to come and see this thing. They're paying airline tickets. They're paying the hotel ticket. They're paying the ticket at the museum. They're coming and taking a look at it, and all this money circulates and it's part of my world and it makes my life better, right? It increases my GDP in my country, right? If you're not thinking on that big of a scale, and then you go to these other places that are struggling to put together a tourism industry because all their stuff has been burnt down and destroyed and stolen and appropriated and that kind of thing, you start thinking like, oh, okay, you know, people pay the average salary of a Ugandan just to see a mask from Uganda. And they don't pay the Ugandan, they pay me. They pay people like me, right? They pay people in my country, my countrymen. How about that, right? And it's like, that's kind of weird. Or okay, my dad stole something from somebody. My great grandmother stole some land for somebody, but I'm on that land. This person's homeless right now. You know, when you encounter that story, there's a feeling, right? For some people, like, I don't know, that doesn't seem right. And then the question is, do you, as a current day heir, heir to the act, do you have an obligation to make the thing right? I don't have a concrete answer. I have an answer based on like who I am at my core, but there's no right or wrong answer. Let me say it that way. And I'm just like, if I'm questioning what you're saying, you're probably closer to what I believe than not. So don't think that I'm asking you guys these questions. I just wanted to be an asshole today. Does reincarnation make you responsible? That's interesting. So I always tell the story of my younger brother and how his leg was healed by just using like traditional medicine, things like that. His leg was broken as an infant and he wasn't supposed to walk, right? He's supposed to be, he just wasn't supposed to walk and that kind of thing. And so one of the things they found out was that past life, he passed away young and one of his aunts could have prevented it and she didn't. So she came and apologized to the present day child, to my brother, right? She came and apologized. So yeah, things carry, as far as the ancestral belief, things carry in reincarnation as well. Things carry in reincarnation as well. Daniel Williams says, sorry to that man. I'm going to keep my land. LOL JK. Oh, shit. Keeping stolen property is still stealing. Ah, the plot thickens. Mazi Nania says, Keeping property, stolen property, is still stealing. It's a good point. Okay, where does stolen property begin and end, right? Where does stolen property begin and end? Because whoever you are, wherever you live, I'm pretty sure there was some war that your people had that made you gain things by force from another people that didn't want to let it go. There's no group in history that doesn't have that. So where does stolen property begin and where does it end? When you hear that story, do you now say, okay, you can have the whole of Abon Bise or wherever you're from? You can take your land back. Is that the restitution? All right. All right. So Ikenga Nation says, okay, hold on, wait. Oh yeah, Ikenga Nation says, I think you should make amends for the sins of your ancestors, but your own conscious slash spiritual and mental health, as well as, I don't know why I can't read today, as well as for the peace between you and the people your ancestors wronged. Yeah, a lot of times it's not like, oh, I need that specific thing back, right? If somebody's bringing up something from, oh, when we were in kindergarten, you did this to me, or your dad did this and that time. It's usually they don't want the specific thing that was, you stole my juice in kindergarten. I don't want the juice back, but maybe I want an apology or an acknowledgement that it happened. Now, if you're still dragging something from kindergarten, you got bigger problems than a carton of juice, but that's just me.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Question of museums. I do think art stolen from Africa should be returned. Okay. People who feel guilty about the stolen artifacts they inherited, they would have stolen it themselves if they had the chance. The conflict is in if you're trying to correct the theft or cover up the crime. Damn. Okay, so some of these acts of restitutions might be cover-ups. I think that's what you're saying. It's 10:35 here in the Caribbean. Bedtime. Okay, Debbie. Kachifono. It's the person asking this ancestral gift question concerned about paying reparations to enslaved people of African descent. Just curious. You're talking about me? I'm the one asking it. It's not specifically about that topic, but it's a popular one when it comes to the word restitution, things like that. So if it's something you want to discuss, that's fine. But that's not specifically what I'm talking about. This conversation is good. Keep it up. Really? Because I feel like I'm just being a troll. I mean, movable property like a bicycle. Okay. Mazi, let me go see your original comments. Okay, keeping stolen property is still stealing like movable property like a bicycle. Okay, so does property become different if it is movable or not movable? If I moved you off your property and took it, or if so on and so forth, is that, you know? If so, then home ownership in the U.S. is criminal. Some people may say it is. Dick Gregory. I think I heard Dick Gregory saying that if you're paying taxes, you're guilty too. Oh man. Some people say home ownership in the U.S. might be criminal. Or maybe that's just the law of, maybe in some weird way, that's the law of humanity. I don't know. Emmy, mind blown. Okay, yeah, you got it. Just thinking that cool. Derek, when it comes to artifacts stolen by other countries and displayed in a museum, I do think that the artifact should be returned or at least paid for. Why would I, a museum owner in the modern times, have to pay someone in Africa who you didn't even make the mask, first of all, buddy, right? Bucko, right? You didn't even make this awful. But I gotta pay you just because you're from the same general geographic area as the brilliant young man or woman who made this thing. Why should I pay you, right? That kind of thing. So, like I said, I'm just testing out these different ideas and things like that. I wanted to troll today, so I did my. But yeah, Anyways, yeah, haha. I wanted to get your thoughts on that because you've been. Uh-oh, something. It says something went wrong. So if I'm not talking, if you guys can't hear me, let me know. Coincidentally, the new Spider-Man movie that just came yesterday focused on a similar topic. Are you responsible for the problems created outside of your control and knowledge? Damn. Nice. I haven't seen the new Spider-Man, by the way. I actually made a video about one of the Spider-Man movies. They're pretty on point as far as like philosophical arguments and little gemstones of spirituality and things like that. So, wouldn't home ownership be criminal everywhere then? Because lands were stolen and taken prior to colonization all over the world. It's a good question, right? That is a good question. Okay, we can hear you. And there, hey, King Gold, and there, well, I'm just saying, hey, because you gotta. I don't think I've seen your name before, so if you're new, thank you. Thank you for coming. At this point, I want an Igbo offer to be returned to the Nigerian government. Nigerian government can have no Igbo offer. Nigerian government can't get no damn Igbo offer. Nigerian government ain't got nothing to do with no Igbo offer or anything like that. That ain't got nothing to do with us, man. We're trying to get out of there. So in their mind, you did not make it, but your ancestor, which is you, made it. Yes. Okay, so in one thread of ethics, you did make it because your ancestors made it, right? In another thread, okay, who am I returning this to? Because it's not yours either, right? It's not yours either. Why is your claim, if you're not guilty for your ancestors' crimes, why should you receive your ancestors' treasures and gifts and glory and achievements and that kind of thing, right? That kind of thing. Okay, your dad stole your dad stole my mom's BMW. Okay, that's between y'all. That's not none of my business. But we built the pyramids though, way back then, right? I'll do ma. What will Tinubu do with hey abomination? No, we can't. What will Tinubu do with yeah? There's nothing concerning Nebo with Nigeria, man. So, in their mind, okay, cool. Speaking of Nigerian government, Derek, I went down a rabbit hole Nigerian YouTube and I found there was a Nigerian scammer who stole an airport that didn't, who sold it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I heard about that guy. I think it was he did it in England. He sold it to like some I think European investors or British investors or something in England, like an English airport or something like that. I don't know. If you can share the story, I'd appreciate that because maybe my memory's off. But yeah, I heard about that. The guy that sold them an airport that didn't exist. Yeah. Trust me, in like 20 years, all comedy will just be hearing shit from Nigeria. That's all comedy is gonna be in 20 years. That's why like when I was like younger, people try to make like Nigeria jokes or oh yeah, that Michael Blackson shit. It's like, dude, if you knew what was really going on there, like this, you would know how this isn't funny. You understand? Because the real comedy is going on over there. Yeah, it was. There's a guy that sold an airport that didn't exist to some British people, or I don't know, something like that. It's saying that something went wrong, so you guys let me know if I cut out. A Brazilian investor. Okay, okay, cool. That's crazy. I'll go back and watch that story because it was it was insane. So I'll go back and watch it. It's a funny one. Give it back to the town you stole it from, maybe. Well, who is the town but a bunch of people? Especially a bunch of people who didn't create the artifact and didn't own it, right? Who is the town but a bunch of people? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Some of these artifacts were stolen by Christian Africans and sold to the church. They used to. I try not to talk about this particular thing because I know that people will be like, "Oh, they're giving out money for this," and they'll start doing it like at rapid speed. So like, be cautious in doing what you're doing and that kind of thing. But there are Europeans that post up in Onitsha. And all they do is buy your ancestral heirlooms and they go sell it or they go get the money for it in Europe. Um, and lots of Christians do it now. A lot of those churches, what they'll do is they'll say, "Bring all the offer in your household. Bring all the this and this and this. Bring the ikanga in your household. Akwali omo." They'll tell you to bring all these things out, and then you put them in a big pile, right? I saw this pile from, I want to say, Oyo or Ibadan, from way back in the day. It was like a mountain of like artifacts. Some of these things are like thousands of years old, and they give it up to the church, and then the church is to destroy them. But what they do is they go sell them, right? If you go to I've talked about this on live before, but if you go to the Vatican website, you'll see a whole bunch of like Igbo, like all fall and things like that for sale. And I always joke about the fact that the Igbo all fall is worth more. They're charging like $8,000, $7,000, $2,000, $5,000 for the Igbo all fall. But if you want the Virgin Mary, the crucifix, and that kind of thing from the Vatican, that shit's gonna be like $60, 20, 15, and so forth. But yeah, so a lot of these things were acquired by the churches selling them, right? Bring all these evil things, and then they go sell it to those guys that are posted up. And then you're now saying the museum should bring it back to you. It's like, I bought it from you. What are you talking about, right? So it's more complicated than it looks. the the museum never created the artifact either. Why should they benefit from? Well, no museum has created an artifact, but that is a very good point, right? It's a very good point. And I don't like talking about that those people post because I feel like people like I remember this one guy. He has this thing in his family. He messaged me. This thing's at least 900 years old, just based off what I know and the style. And I was like, this thing is very valuable. Do not ever sell it. This guy kept saying, he was messaging me on Facebook. He's like, okay, will you take it for like 200? I'm like, listen, dude, don't sell this thing. It's worth more than money. He's like, okay, but let's say I wanted to sell it. How much would I get for it? It's like, hey, I had to just leave the very depressing situation alone. But yeah, because he had posted it on like a forum, like, hey, I have these. I want to sell them. How much do you think I'll get for them? And I messaged him, hey, don't sell that. It's very, very valuable. This guy kept saying, okay, where are you? You're in the US. Okay, will you buy it? No, I'll never buy it from you. Don't sell it. This thing is more valuable than money. Okay, but let's say I wanted to sell it. Maybe you think I get like $200? So yeah, a lot of this, it's way more complicated than it looks. Enlightenment is important. You enlighten people, they stop doing these goofy things. I don't know why they made Africa a resource extraction zone. Yeah, it's a rich place. And, you steal from the rich. Hold on. If the museum can prove that they brought the artifacts. Okay, if the museum can prove that they bought the artifact willingly, they can keep it up. It's funny because it reminds me of Mugabe, right? The story I'm aware of is that, and this was told me by my Zimbabwean friend, Mugabe had said to the tax-paying Americans in Zimbabwe that they need to show their deeds, the purchase, like the proof of purchase of their land, or they'll lose it. That's how they ended up, getting rid of the tax-paying Americans and redistributing the land to the indigenous people, because the ones who couldn't prove that they bought that land lost it, right? The ones who could prove that they bought it kept it. It's not that they kicked them all out. The ones who proved that I bought this, they kept it. They're still there, that kind of thing. So 3 men approach you and say your deceased father stole their car. Okay? Your father had one car, which you inherited. Who do you give the car to? Oh, shit. Oh, man. Oh, good question. So these are 3 different people. They don't live together. And all their cars were stolen, but for some reason, in the end of his illustrious carjacking career, we only have one car to speak of. First of all, I'd be very ashamed of my father's lack of capacity in his career. Second, who would I give the car to? Hey, All right, Emmy, since you decided to tie my brain in a knot, you why don't you give me your answer? Who would you give the car to if three people approached you and said your dad stole their car, and so on and so forth? Oh, well, being offered up to be destroyed but really sold is probably why I'm on the planet. Okay. Plot twist: all three men are lying. Yeah, that's the other plot twist, right? How do I know this really happened? How do I know you're telling me the truth? That kind of thing. You know? How do I know? Can you prove it? That kind of thing. I think that if enough time has passed, what people want, the thing people want is more emotional than physical. I don't think they want a physical car. They don't want their car from 1991 back. That's not what they're looking for, you know. I remember I had moved to this is when I moved to Houston. Yeah, I had moved to Houston, and I wanted to go back and get my furniture from my previous apartment. And I had this apartment when I was like young and stuff, like all the way up to the point I moved there. And it took me forever to like, get stable, get a place to stay, that kind of thing, and then go back and start bringing all this stuff. And I remember when I got there, the quality of the things I had forgotten, that I had forgotten what they really look like. In my head, they look like how like they were when I first got them. But got there, they were small. It was like I could have easily, the money I spent coming down to get my furniture, I could have just bought the same damn furniture where I was at, that kind of thing. So I don't know if that story made any sense, but the point is, a lot of times you want to a lot of times the physical object itself is going to it's going to lose value over time, right? So the value you have for it's usually in your head, and for most people, after a while, it becomes an abstract. It's not. I don't want the couch back. I don't want the car back. That kind of thing. There's something abstract I need back. That's why I'm bringing it up, right? Running over all three of them. That's funny. So these waist beads worn by women in Igbo land called jigida. My mother showed us one worn by her grandmother. We rented it to a university. I won't mention in the East, and it's gone. Oh man, that's tragic. That's tragic. Yeah, I get scared because our people don't know the value of these things. Like our people don't know. There's like people talk about Ibo Uku. Man, there's like the stuff I know people have stashed in their homes and things like that is even like I remember I watched this thing about like the people in Mali, right? And a lot of the artifacts and books from the Mali Empire, they keep it in their homes and they hide it. They're like family heirlooms they pass out and they hide because when the French came, they started burning a lot of their ancient libraries and books. That was one of the first things they did, started burning a lot of their ancient libraries and books. So they hide it in their families because, of that event. Ours didn't look like burning. A lot of it was buying, a lot of it was taking. So, I don't know what the hell's going on, but a lot of people have things that they don't know the value of, and some of them just like throw it away, like, oh, what the hell's this, and throw it away, that kind of thing. Like I said, there was this guy. He had these bronze, or maybe bronze or metal, I don't know, but he had these bronze or metal things that were in the exact same style as what you'd see in Ibo Uku. The quality was lower. It wasn't as the lines weren't as precise, but it was a lower quality, looked the exact same, and he's from a place in that area. And I'm like, hey man, don't sell this, but he doesn't know. Like, he doesn't know. Even if you told him the story, I don't know if he would have the ability to understand the magnitude of what he's being told, right? So yeah, even like Benin, for a while, the government in Edo had to stop people from using the walls of Benin to mix cement. They would chip off the walls, like parts of the walls, and they'd put in the cement mix and they'd use it to mix cement. And so the government had to intervene and be like, hey, this is an ancient, like this is an artifact, an ancient heritage, yada yada yada. The largest earthworks in the world in human history that we're aware of, anyways. The largest earthworks that were is the walls of Benin. and people were up till pretty recently chipping away at it and using it to mix cement and shit like that. So that's what ignorance does, you know. You give a chimpanzee a laptop, there your laptop is finished. You know, a chimpanzee doesn't know what the thing's capable of. You know, that kind of thing. Not that I'm calling anybody chimps, but you know, you can chimp yourself out very easily. The The question slash title of your live stream you pose is a philosophical conundrum. Nevertheless, what I get from this question is that we can't escape consequences. Ah, that's dope. Hey, ha 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 ha! I've been badgering your answers probably the most, but I want to let you know that I like a lot of what you said, and I low key agree. Wink, wink. You know. Not trying to say that selling your culture is okay, but you can't. But can't things be remade? Yeah. Like, can't you carve a new Alpha? Yeah, yeah, of course, things can be remade. So, the Alpha, I'm going to put the Alpha in a different category, but, you know, things that are stolen, yes, they can be remade, but it's not about the physical object, right? It's not about the physical object. People want to say, you know, Africans, they're into ancestors, da da da. The whole of humanity, this whole ancestor thing, the human animal does this, period. It's just what human beings do, right? It's just what human beings do. So I keep telling people that Odinani is not really like a belief system or a religion or whatever, right? If human beings come from Africa, the things that are core to humans are going to be a lot like very vivid in Africa and live and well, right? Everybody gets married, but we have a very specific explanation as to what is going on in a marriage. Everybody gets buried in the ground, but we have a very specific explanation of what's going on when you bury somebody in the ground, right? Because that's the source of these things, right? So people, the reason I say this, people need the things that their ancestors held, whether they want to use their mouth and admit it or not, right? Or say it, or whether they know why they even want it. Anytime you hear a Westerner say, why is history important? They'll say that nonsense about we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. No, it's not, right? That's not why, right? Because of it's because of what Nebo are telling you. It's because of what our ancestors are telling you, that you are the same as them. That's you back there. That's you. Nothing that they held or they used. It has more, somewhere more. There's a thing that it has that is important, right? That's why you hear something like, "Oh, this book was held by King Archimedes, yada yada yada," and then somebody takes it and throws it in the trash. Everybody's gonna shudder. Everybody's gonna shudder. That kind of thing. But what if you don't know that I don't know, King Archimedes has any value, right? What if you don't have a context of history? The place you learn about history is church, and now you're a Hebrew, right? You don't even learn it in school because if you learn too much history, you'll go start Biafra, right? So they don't teach it in school. They'll go teach it, and you'll go learn it in church and go learn about how you came from Abraham's rib and shit, you know, that kind of thing. The history is it's a spiritual thing. History is spiritual. That's the only reason we tell history. It's what we now call spirituality, right? Now, people that don't think that way will try to come up with excuse or oh no, that's not why, but it's spirit work. That's all it is. It's spirituality. That's why we tell history. That's why history matters. You know, it's not about oh they made mistakes in the past, so we don't. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, you're gonna repeat it. It doesn't matter. The mistake they made, right? They made it because they're humans, and you're a human too. You didn't consciously say, okay, from now on, I'm not gonna do bad things. You don't even know what a bad thing is, that kind of thing. Your descendants will now say, oh, okay, that thing he was doing was bad because they have grown beyond your level. But at your level right now, there's a lot of evil you're doing that you're not aware of, right? There's a lot of good you're doing that you're not aware of, that kind of thing, you know. Hope I'm making sense. Biafra loading it. Right, 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 right. Hey, wink, wink. Yeah, yeah. Biafra loading for real. Yeah, yeah. Let's not say too much. Son of Nook, let's not say too much, yeah, but we're working. Derek, I don't mind you badgering my questions. Force me to think about my position. I'll get the insight into other people's thoughts. Dope. I appreciate that. Iboku and other southern Nigerian bronze artifacts are incredibly beautiful. Nigerians should take care of them. Yeah, but if you think you're a Hebrew, you think you're from Israel, and that thing is the devil, right? It's got the more on it is the devil. The best thing you can do is sell it, because you know a lot of crazy things have been burned. You know, a lot of crazy things have been burned. Great mind, brother. Dialogue one there. Dialogue one there. I appreciate it. I really feel like I'm just trolling and rambling today, so I appreciate you guys for having fun, because I am too. I wanted to get some other thoughts on the whole thing. In your opinion, if Biafra becomes independent, how do you think the country should be run? Okay, so you guys know my biases based off of what I discuss on my channel, right? But I challenge anybody in the world to tell me otherwise about what I'm about to say. So, our ancestors set up a political system that made sense and worked and dealt with many of the issues we're currently dealing with right now, right? Now, I'm not going to say we can go just reset. Okay, now that we have Biafra, let's just reset. That's not going to happen. People are different now. They got all these different beliefs, things like that. But I'll give you an example of how things work. Earlier, we were talking about the Ichi marks, right? So if a person becomes a living ancestor, they get these scarifications on their head. Their tongue is cut. They get cuts on their tongue. I'm going to do the cuts on the tongue. I don't know about the forehead, though, because I'm vain. But that means I'm not ready. Wink, right? So they'll cut your tongue. They'll put pepper in it. Like they'll put like they'll put like a tonic that has pepper in it. And there, your eyes there'll be pepper in your eyes, and you'll be made to stare into the sun, right? And you look at it, oh, that's crazy. That's barbaric. Woo. Okay, fine. Yeah, it is barbaric as hell, right? But get this. Once a person becomes an Nze, they are a living ancestor, right? This person becomes a decision maker in the community automatically, right? So these are the leaders. These are the people who serve as judges, right? To perform ipe, the judges, a judge, right? These are the people that form jurors for, like, if you have a larger tribunal. These are the people that serve in the representative Congress, the Igbo communities were republics. They were democratic republics, right? So the Aha would gather and they would vote on issues. These are the people that go and vote, that kind of thing. They've taken a vow to never lie. They've taken a vow to never steal. They've taken a vow to live simply, that type of thing. At the same time, if an Ozo or an Inze come to your home, you give them yams automatically. You just give them yams, maybe a chicken, that kind of thing. And then they sign on their name on your floor. They sign their name on your floor. And when other people come to your home and they see a bunch of Ozo names on the ground, they know that you're a good person. Because an Inze and an Ozo cannot be in the same room as a person with a bad character. A person who is known for criminality, who is known for theft, who's known for all these things, right? That kind of thing. So again, the question was, how would the government be? But I'm going into this long thing to show you how these systems were set up. In order for you to be given that kind of authority, you're cutting your head open, you're cutting your tongue open, you're getting your eyes burnt out, that kind of thing. So the person who steps to that authority is not the person who wants to become rich because of it, or is doing it so he gets free yams, or that somebody thinks he's special. It's because there's something inside that person that says, I want to take a vow to live an honest life from now on, that kind of thing, right? So all of these systems balanced each other, right? Always, when it's hard for Westerners to understand things like things like oral tradition, because they think, oh well, somebody can just make up whatever. I carved my head up, cut my tongue up, poured pepper in my eyes so that I can remix Humpty Dumpty, or tell about the Civil War in a newfangled way. No, you understand. The relationship with honesty in the ancient world is different. So we have a hard time understanding that people just tell the truth, right? As crazy as that sounds, right? So that's not my answer. So what would the government look like? Okay, how would they run things upon, let's say there's Biafra or whatever, right? Okay. So I think that they would have to go to the community system, right? So each family would have to elect a representative to go and vote on issues in an AHA and an assembly. This assembly would be non-permanent, meaning it meets one time a year, right? To vote on issues. You can propose bills, so on and so forth, but that time of year they meet, they're just knocking them down. Okay, this is the resolution, so on and so forth. How do you guys vote? Go, that kind of thing. And then next year we do a whole new AHA, so on and so forth. You have to try to avoid the idea of permanent government as much as possible because our ancestors showed that it was possible. In the AHA system, the government was non-permanent. When an issue arose or certain times of the year, all of the representatives would gather, they would vote, they would appoint somebody to execute what was voted on, and then everybody would disperse back into their homes and back into their places and so forth, right? So a situation like that would help a lot in the modern day because the issue with permanent government is it creates mini chiefs and mini kings. And when you create mini chiefs and mini kings, they want to enrich themselves. They don't just want to steal for themselves. They want to steal for their generations to come. They want their children to be in power, so on and so forth. It creates this situation that Europe has been battling with for thousands and thousands of years. And they are reaching a point where they're a little more in control of this inheritance feudal bullshit right now. But it was 2,000 years of fighting it and trying to figure it out. We just started adopting it, so we got 2,000 more years to go until we reach a point where we're like, oh, okay, social medicine and all that stuff, whatever, right? So something that encourages non-permanent government, right? Representative government, of course, like each representation, yada yada, all the way up to the top. And then you have to make the act of leading very unattractive. You have to make the act of leadership very unattractive, of government leadership unattractive, right? It can't be a thing where you go to and it has to be like driving a bus. No disrespect to the bus drivers, right? But it has to be a civil service. That this is the person we're going to go send to do the civil service because he's got the time for it. The rest of us, we don't got time, or maybe this person, he's honest. This is what we want. He's going to go say what we want in there, that kind of thing. So something like that. It'd have to be something like that. Of course, each place should also have the autonomy to edit their system however they want, but as much representation as possible, and a democracy that goes into even the family unit, deep, like into, like, that kind of thing. Now, by family I mean clan, like clan representation and so forth, right? That kind of thing. So I don't know. I have a lot of ideas on it, and it's not something I can really answer off the cuff, but that's my own. What role would women play in the system? Oh, okay. So I think that if you sent a man year one, you have to send a woman year two. I think that would be fair. I think if you sent a man year one, you have to send a woman year two so we can at least reach a situation where we're doing a lot of 50-50, right? Now, the problem this creates is you get that one old guy who sends himself and then sends his wife the next year, that kind of thing. But that clan has to hash that out themselves. And there's so many representatives I'm talking like 10,000 people being sent to do this voting that the ability to bribe the individual one becomes very hard, right? A lot of people have to be involved in this. Send man one year, send woman the next year. So that'd be that. Cool. Your idea of non-permanent government is great in theory, sort of small countries like city-states. Once you go beyond the city-state, that type of non-permanent government becomes difficult. Yes, but what is a country but a collection of hamlets and towns, right? That's all a country is, a collection of hamlets and towns. So acknowledge that, or really a collection of families. So acknowledge that and make that the basis of what you're doing. And take things out of the hands of the government. Not everything has to be the damn government, right? So if we're sending a family member to the town government, to the town government, right? Okay, they vote, they make things happen, so on and so forth, but they would have to vote in a way that it's not always in the government hands. Now, if we're living in America, we're better at this than a lot of countries, but Nigeria is horrible at this, right? The government opens hotels in Nigeria. And then the government opens churches and mosques in Nigeria. The government pays for people to fly to Mecca and Hajj and things like that. So if you're American, it's a given. Oh yeah, just stop that bullshit. But I'm saying this in the Nigerian context, right? A lot of things have to be taken out of the government hand, right? In America, really, what does the government build here? Roads, I think roads, and sometimes the schools. That's really all the government does. Sometimes the schools and roads, as far as building things. In Nigeria, I don't know what they're trying to do over there, right? They build anyways, yeah, farms, that kind of thing. That system we always run before Europeans came and twisted everything, yeah. Hasn't that system previously been tried and failed? I wouldn't know about failed. Where would you say it's failed? It's been tried, and then the people trying it has been killed. That's not really failing, right? That kind of thing. If you become a vegan, if you decide to become vegan for your health, and I'm not 100% on the benefits on veganism, that kind of thing. I'm not an expert on that. I don't talk on it. But let's say you become a vegan for your health, and somebody runs your health and shoots your child. Does that mean veganism failed? No. So if it's colonialism that was the failure, I wouldn't call that a failure. If it is, if there's an example of that being tried and becoming a problem for people, then yeah, let me know. But I think it's an unbelievably equitable system. Here's another thing that's radical too that I would like to explore. What if there was an incorporation of at the very top, and this is all going to sound crazy, but what if there was an incorporation of chance, right? What if there was an incorporation of chance? What if it wasn't 100% a contest, right? What if, in order for you to serve at a certain point, you would have to have XYZ credentials, right? Training in this, training in this, training this, training in that, right? And all the parties bring their person that has all that training, right? Or that on this, and that. Again, we're making this as unattractive as possible. So this person has to be, you're doing something we as society think is important. You have to be at the very top. At the lower levels or that kind of thing, it can be anybody.